Living Local Carolina with Katie Turner. Local trends, shopping, dining, and more. This is Living Local Carolina.
The following portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on Living Local Carolina. I am happy to be back in the studio with my friends from Beach Injury Lawyers. Can I call you guys my friends at this point?
We are your friends.
Will and Greg.
I think we're there, yeah.
All right, I love it. Thanks for being with me today. We have a lively debate. Not really. They're going to teach me what the new law is when it comes to guns that people need to know right now in South Carolina.
It is a topic of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually at a gun shop, a local gun shop here in Myrtle Beach, recently, and there were groups of people talking about the new gun law, and most of the information that they were discussing was just wrong.
Oh.
And of course, being a nosy lawyer, I wanted to go over and say something, but then I said that's probably not a good idea. So
he's saying it on TV now.
so we're gonna save it for this segment. But in March of this year, South Carolina's gun laws changed substantially. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about before March of 2024. Anyone who was 21 years of age who could legally possess a firearm could go through a class, a concealed weapons permitting class, and get their permit. Part of the permit is classroom training. I had a concealed weapons permit. And you do some classroom work, and then you go to the range, and you have to qualify. So you have to be able to at least score or make a certain score in order to get your concealed weapons permit. Okay, so March of this year, that totally changed. So now, in order to carry a firearm, whether it's open carry or a concealed weapon or concealed carry, all you have to be is legally able to possess a gun.
Okay.
And that's it.
That's it.
18.
That's it.
18.
Right. So it used to be 21, get a concealed weapons permit. Now you don't have to apply to get your permit, and you can be 18 years of age. So it added 18, 19, 20-year-olds. It also did away with the requirement of a concealed weapons permit.
All right.
So you really have a true open carry law here in South Carolina. Now, you also, and we had talked about this, where do you store your firearm if you're in the car? It used to be it needed to be in a lockable compartment, so most people would put it in a glove box. Now you don't have to do that. It can be on your seat, it can be on your dashboard, it can be on your person, and that is legal now.
All right.
In South Carolina. And then lastly, police officers, if they see someone, let's say they see you walking down the road with a gun, they cannot stop you to question you about why you're carrying that gun. They have to have reasonable and articulable suspicion that a crime has been committed. And unless they have that, then they cannot come up and question you about why you are carrying that firearm.
All right.
So, there's some big changes. Mm-hmm. Big changes with the gun law.
We probably should say also there's still a background check. Like
Thank
if
you
you're
for
not
saying
able to
that.
carry a gun, legally, then you have to. It's about a 30-45 minute process when you're applying to purchase a gun. And also, if you're from a different state and you're traveling here, it's a little bit different. Your state has to be basically if it has to have a reciprocal law for you to be able to carry here. So if you're coming from out of state and your state doesn't have a law similar to our new law, then you can't just carry it. So just a little,
Well, and that's the main reason that you would have you would now you can still get a concealed weapons permit, right? They're still out there. You could pay for it, go to the class, and get qualified. That would allow you to carry in other states that have similar laws to South Carolina's.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for clearing that up for our viewers. And coming up after the break, we're going to be talking about ride sharing. This will be pretty interesting, so stay tuned. Well, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us today on Living Local Carolina. I'm hanging out with Will and Greg from Beach Injury Lawyers, and we are talking about ride sharing, Uber and Lyft. Tell me what our viewers need to know about this.
Sure. So in some ways, there's not a whole lot of differences in the law, but I'm assuming most people have used rideshare, but if they haven't, it's essentially it's going to be an app. You call the car to you. Driver comes up, you use it, and you pay by a credit card. It's a very simple, system. About 36% of Americans now use rideshare. Continues to increased by about 10% last year, so I think we'll be at 50% soon. Uber does dominate the market. They have about 70% of the market share, while Lyft is 25%, and then there's a lot of smaller ones. But the difference in the law would be, now you have a third party involved, and the responsibility is still on the driver. They are going to have insurance. They're independent contractors. However, if you're struck by someone who is driving an Uber, then Uber will carry $1 million liability policy. That's very rare to see on a motor vehicle outside of an 18-wheeler or tractor trailer. So it does allow for significant recovery if you sustain serious injuries where otherwise we typically see 25, 50,000, 100,000. So that's one of the main. There are some issues in terms of like what part of the ride are you in too. I mean, and especially if you're in the car with someone who is driving an Uber, whether or not they are on the way to pick you up, whether or not they have already picked you up, whether or not. So there's a couple of differences there as well, but in terms of what they carry for someone in their vehicle, that depends on the state and depends on what Uber chooses to do. But if you're struck by someone driving an Uber or an Uber vehicle, then you can't sue Uber themselves because these guys are independent contractors and ladies, but they do carry $1 million liability policy.
What about if you are riding in an Uber and that Uber driver or Lyft gets in a car accident while you're in the car and you're injured?
That would depend on whose fault it was. If it was a third party's, if it was the other vehicle's fault, you would be looking to their insurance policy first. If it was the driver, and then it's a little bit different. But if you were in the Uber and it was the other person's fault, of course you would look to the other person first. Then you would look to the vehicle that you're in, which would be the Uber vehicle. And then you also have underinsured, possibly yourself. So there's just an added layer of coverage.
And that's really what it boils down to is the insurance coverages. When you're in a rideshare program, or if you're taking a Lyft or an Uber, there's just another layer of insurance, which is if you're injured. I mean that's a great thing for you as the injured person to have an additional layer of insurance to recover.
Honestly, I have had so many rides in Ubers and Lyfts. I've never even thought about this before, and I bet someone watching hasn't either.
Well, I mean, I took one. I took a ride share here today, and so you know the driver. They're so popular, of course, but the drivers go through background checks, their driving histories. They have to, the companies have to look at their driving histories. So, there is a level of comfort that it's not just anybody, behind the wheel. But in case accidents happen, there's that extra layer of insurance, which if you are seriously injured, that there is some comfort in that.
Gotcha. Any final thoughts before we go to break, guys?
Just doing a little research, I found that there are actually a few companies that now ride share for children, and they have additional safety measures. And
interesting.
So yeah, I haven't used it. I don't know that I would feel comfortable with that, but that's also out there.
All right, good to know. We're going to be talking a little bit more about a very important topic after the break: beach safety, something that obviously comes in handy here around the Grand Strand. So stick with us, guys. Thanks for sticking with us today on Living Local Carolina. An important topic that we're talking about with the guys from Beach Injury Lawyers. We're talking about beach safety. Very timely, obviously, but I love when you guys give tips to our viewers on what they need to know ahead of the season. Let's get into it.
Well, I mean, as you say, summer's here. You know, the traffic has definitely increased. You know, in the Grand Strand area, and the beaches are starting to fill up. And you know, it's always the personal injury lawyer that's going to put a damper on everything. You know, because we always, you know, look for the bad things that that can happen. But you know, really, and this holds true with whether it be driving or motorcycles, whatever the case may be, is just be aware of your surroundings. And you know, when we talk about vacation or beach safety, you know, beach umbrellas.
Yeah.
Pretty nondescript thing that you will see. But you know, a couple of years ago here there was a very large verdict of a beach umbrella that the wind got a hold of it and it impaled a visitor.
Oh my gosh.
Here in Myrtle Beach, and she died as a result of being impaled by a beach umbrella. It's not something that you would ever expect to happen, but it does. And again, that's just being, if you have a beach umbrella, just be aware. You know, be careful. Make sure if you're going to put it in the sand that you do it properly. Hotel pools. You know,
Oh
when my
yeah,
children,
swim at your own risk.
yeah, that's right. And I mean, you know, when my children are grown now, but his kids love to go to the pool, right?
Yeah.
My kids absolutely would love to go to the pool. They didn't care anything about the beach. They would want to go to the pool. And, you know, just again, a couple of years ago, there was a 3-year-old who was here in the Grand Strand area who was severely burned by an overchlorinated pool.
Oh wow.
And he sustained, I mean, severe chemical burns on the lower half of his body.
Jeez.
So again, you just situational awareness. You know, see what's going on around you. You know, if you can smell the pungent odor of chlorine coming from a pool, it's something that you might want to have a second thought about. You know, before you jump in.
Oof. Yeah, I hate that. And also, that's not the most dangerous thing to think about when it comes to water either, because of rip currents.
Good point.
That is,
Yeah.
and Will had actually told me about the website. I think it's
Check My Beach.
That's right, checkmybeach.com, which I mean, that's loaded with information.
Yeah, that's a great resource.
You know, it talks about riptides. It talks about you know, weather. It talks about beach conditions. And if you are going to visit the Grand Strand, it's really something that you should look at is Check My Beach.
And pay attention to your lifeguards. They typically will tell you when you should not be in the water. And you know, I see people when I am there, when I can get to the beach, aside from the pool. I see people disregard it, and the lifeguards have to go in a lot. You know, Greg had mentioned the umbrella case. We actually had a case like that many years ago, and I broke a lady's back. I mean, 2 vertebrae in her back, and you know, I can't imagine walking on the beach and not knowing that this thing has come from behind me. The pole was coming. You know, we've had one, or this is many years ago, but I had a lady that was she was on the cover of the brochure of a hotel. Her family, and she came every year, and she was from Kentucky, and she had just gotten there. Her family had gotten there for vacation. She went up to the pool bar, got a drink. She lays down sort of underneath the top of the roof of a 5-story hotel, and she's laying down, and a piece of the hotel, like a concrete piece about 2 feet, literally just kind of broke loose and landed on her foot, and you know, crush injury. And who would think?
You wouldn't.
That's true.
Like, we don't want to make people paranoid. I mean, you can't
relaxing,
control
you know?
everything or pay
Yeah.
attention to everything, but yeah, like, just freak accidents occur.
Yeah, be safe this summer, wear your sunscreen, and if you need them, give these guys a call. The preceding portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers.